Need a Christmas dinner for one? I've got you covered. I think a great solo meal, especially a great holiday meal, needs to accomplish 3 different things. It needs to be fairly quick, limited cleanup, and feel special. A sheet pan ham steak and vegetable dinner fits the bill. Before I share the recipe, I wanted to do a quick introduction. I'm Rebecca. I'm a non-diet dietitian and Cooking for One teacher. And well, I'm here to help you make Cooking for One more enjoyable and actually feel like it's worth it. Before we get started, I wanted to share a couple really quick facts about this recipe. It should take about 20 to 30 minutes. Within that, only about 5 to 10 minutes of active time. So then you can go ahead and make Christmas cookies, you can watch a Christmas movie, talk with loved ones, or relax. Well, you can get started in any of those things because this will be done in a snap. Okay, now let's make the recipe. I just set my oven to preheat at 375. It doesn't have a light or anything, so I'm gonna check the time to see when that started, and then I'm gonna start chopping vegetables and we'll walk through that. Okay, so I'm chopping a potato and a handful of Brussels sprouts. The potatoes will be slightly smaller than the Brussels sprouts as they take a little bit longer to cook. The original recipe here uses mashed potatoes, and it's linked in the description below. I prefer those, but in efforts of not following the recipe, which is my top tip for Cooking for One, I'm making roasted potatoes instead. Okay, so this is a ham steak. I found them at a couple of different grocery stores in Salt Lake, so I hope and imagine that it would be available more broadly than that. This is a really great option if you're cooking for one, because this is one of 2 in the packet that I bought, but you can also buy a bigger, like a, that's a part of a spiral cut ham. And this is really nice because you're not left with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of leftovers. This will be good for 2 to 4 meals, I would imagine, depending on how hungry you are and also what you're having it with. I'm putting my ham steak in a stasher bag. I really like this, and I'll tell you a little bit about it in a moment. But before I do that, I'm just going to add in, I've got some maple syrup, I've got some rosemary, and some spilling, and some salt that I'm gonna add to this. So while I'm adding that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the ham steak and what I'm doing here. So I am cooking my ham steak in this stasher bag. I think this is a really great resource for baking, especially something like this where you don't want it to get super dried out. And so I'm just gonna put this on the baking pan next to the vegetables, and it's gonna cook really well. If you don't have a stasher bag, that's totally fine. You can instead cover it in foil, and that's gonna help it steam. See, again, we don't want it to dry out, and covering it is gonna help a lot with that. So, salt. I'm gonna pinch a little bit of salt. Okay, so I'm gonna leave about 1 inch of an opening here. Kind of rub this in so we can get some maple syrup all over the ham steak. This is so simple. And a little messy, but that's great. Okay, so this is ready to also go on the baking sheet. All right, now I've got my potatoes and Brussels sprouts. This is gonna take up a good amount of space here. The easier way is to toss them on the pan, drizzle some oil, syrup, rosemary, and salt, and toss them in the pan. But for better coverage and less burning, I'd recommend doing this in a separate bowl. But I'm gonna make this as easy as possible today, so you can choose which way you wanna go. Okay, so I've got all of this done and it's ready to go in the oven. It'll bake for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I would recommend tossing it once, or maybe even twice. Once, do once. Once during the baking time. Another thing too, I haven't made this before, so I'm really curious and a little bit nervous to see if it turns out. I hope it does, and if it doesn't, maybe we'll have to kind of think of some ideas to make it taste better, because this is a holiday meal. We want it to be really good. All right, let's get it baking. Okay, here we go. So a couple of quick notes that you need to know about. This did not take 15 minutes to cook. It took 15, 10, 10, so 25, no, 35, I can do math. So it took about 35 minutes to get to about this level of golden brown. Honestly, I'd like the potatoes a little bit more golden, but I am a very impatient person. I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat. As I was putting this together, it is very crowded. I would have spread this out. I wouldn't have spread it out, but a person with a little bit more wise decision-making skills here would have done 2 separate pans, or a bigger, actually just a bigger one. That would have been the thing to do. Don't do a quarter sheet, do a half sheet, and that would have made a big difference. And it would allow the potatoes in particular to really crisp up more. Now, I did already test potatoes, they're done, so definitely 25 minutes is enough to cook them. You just want more to brown them. Okay, all of that aside, let's taste it and see if we need to add any seasonings. Okay, here we go. So let's taste test a bite. I already cut some of the ham up because cutting it on here, holding it up, not a good idea. Actually, I'm just gonna taste it by itself. The flavor is really good. I think next time I make it, because it did, I either only cook it, honestly, it's a little bit dry. When I make this again, and what I would recommend to you is only cook it for about 15 to 20-ish, 25 minutes. And that's gonna help preserve some of that texture and keep it from drying out more. Let's try the vegetables. There's no flavor in these. I'm gonna add some more maple syrup because I don't think I added nearly enough. I have about double the vegetables than I did in that original recipe because of the potatoes, and add some salt, and that's gonna help a lot, I would imagine. Okay, like I mentioned, I just added a little bit more salt and also maple syrup. I think freshly ground black pepper or even red pepper flakes would be really good on this as well. So let's try the vegetables now. Much better. So if you're using the recipe on the website, double the seasonings because we're doubling the vegetables here. But this is really nice. The potatoes are actually not crispy at all, but I don't mind them because I use Yukon Gold potatoes and they're so creamy and really delicious. And honestly, I don't know if I've ever had potatoes and maple syrup together, but it is really good. So highly recommend. Cook this a little bit less, cook this a little bit more if you want really crispy edges, and enjoy. Well, thanks for watching. I'm curious though, before I let you go, what are your favorite holiday or Christmas traditions, depending on what you're celebrating in the winter? I would love to hear. Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And also adding to that, favorite holiday foods. Are there any differences between those? I would love to hear. I forgot to introduce my lovely ugly sweater vest. So this was my grandma's sweater vest, actually. I borrowed it from her years ago for an ugly sweater party and never gave it back. She has since passed on, but it's really delightful to see this and to remember her in wearing it. So me and my grandma, through her vest, are here to share Christmas ham. So have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you in the next year. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe as usual if you found this helpful. If you hit the bell, you'll be notified whenever videos come up. And if you have any questions or topics or recipes that you'd like to see, go ahead and share those in the comments and I'll take a look and see if that is something that I could do. Okay, see you in the next year.